everyone, hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining in for the day. I am Aditya. I'm one of the coaches here at MLH, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. Today's session is honestly one that I'm so excited about because we're going to be playing around with the technology that I absolutely love working with. So, yeah, we're going to have a ton of fun for sure. And I hope you're all excited because I have some fun plans for this session. You know, with Twilio, it's been quite a powerful piece of tech. You can send SMSs, you can do voice calls. There's a ton of other stuff you can do as well, like authentication, multi-factor authentication. You can do video stuff. There's quite a bit you can play around there. But we're gonna play around with SMS and voice, and we're gonna first, just learn how to play with those. But afterwards, we're gonna create a little API that can rickroll people as well. So definitely some fun plans for this session. I hope you're all excited. I'll tell you what. Before we go any further, let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and get ourselves registered and checked in. That's definitely a very important step, and we want to make sure that you know we're checked in for the event. So I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen once so that you can do that right now. And I'm gonna send in that link here in the chat. Send that in. Let me bring up my screen as well. And I think should be visible now. Yeah. So with this website, all you need to do is make sure that you click on register and check in, and that you should see a "you are checked in" button there for you. So yeah, that's how you check in for the event. And I will also come up with and share the days check-in and the general check-in as well. Just give me a second. So if you just go ahead and click on /share 2022, this takes you to the general local hack day check-in, which is of course necessary here to make sure that you're checked into the event in general. And oops, looks like I just shifted the layout there. Yeah, so that's the general check-in here for local hack day, global hack week share. I keep getting a slip. My tongue just slips in that one all the time somehow. Probably just a force of habit. But yeah. So you can check into global hack week share from there, and after that, just scroll below. We've got our day 4 check-in, which is the one for us today. So make sure you check into day 4, and let's see if we have a challenge here for this as well, because I know we had an explore the Twilio challenge yesterday, but we have one today as well. So we should be able to get in a valid submission, throughout this session. And in fact, if you're playing around with Twilio WhatsApp, if you do that on your own separately, you can get a separate submission if you'd like. I'm not going to be playing with WhatsApp at the moment. I'll be primarily using SMS and voice, but if you want to go ahead and explore and try that in your own good time, please feel free to do so. That's definitely going to be good. All right. So that's day 4, and that's the Global Hack Week check-in in general for us. All right. I hope you've all gone through that. I hope you're all comfortable with that. All right. Okay, I'm seeing people asking what Rickroll is. You'll get to know. It's a song. Honestly, so it's kind of a troll that came about, where people, it's pranked by an unexpected appearance of Rick Astley's song "Never Gonna Give You Up." So it's kind of got a little. Uh, it's got some notoriety for sure, and it's basically really just a meme where you're baiting someone into kind of you know just clicking on a link or getting notified. So we're gonna do the same. It's a little prank. In our case, it's gonna be a phone call that happens. Um, yeah, so we'll be good. It'll be fun. And yeah, so before anything else, of course, we need to get ourselves registered on Twilio if you aren't already. Right. So I'm gonna share a link here with you all that you can use to register on Twilio. I'm probably gonna have to log out myself since my console is up and running, and it's just gonna be like, yeah. But here, I've shared a link with you all in the chat, and you can use this to register yourself on Twilio. So as soon as you click on this link, what you should see is a Twilio registration link. Here, a little page from which you can go ahead and register. Quick question before that, if you can let me know in the chat, how many of you have tried Twilio in the past? I can see you've rickrolled people, which is awesome. But how many of you have tried Twilio? Okay, nice. So, while people get registered on the website, does anyone want to tell in your experience what Twilio is in the chat? Would you like to explain? If it looks good, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up on the screen as well. Your description. But would you like to try and explain what it is? Anyone? Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Twilio has APIs that let you SMS, MMS, message. Sure. Yeah, I mean they've got APIs, but for specific purposes. So what purpose is that? That's the question. Thank you, there, Raj. Thanks for the little comment. Always appreciate that. All right, I think this is gonna get a little tricky in there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell. Um, Twilio is a cloud communications as a service platform. They have APIs that allow you to communicate with other devices or other, well, systems in general. Um, Let me go ahead and show the website once as well. So they're there to power personalized interactions and global communications. Of course, they've now gone far beyond that, and they're trying to work on intelligent customer engagement, and they're actually one of the best customer data platforms in the world at this point. But yeah, that being said, they allow communication on a variety of different channels like Messenger, WhatsApp, SMS, email. There's email as well with SendGrid, and they've got voice, video, in fact, live streams as well now. If I show you their entire set of channels, so messaging and voice are two channels we'll be working with today. But aside from that, they've got video. You can build video applications. You can build live streaming experiences. You can have email with SendGrid. And then, aside from that, they've got a few other applications as well, like Twilio Flex, which is a contact center service. It's one of the most flexible cloud contact center services. You can set up marketing campaigns. Uh, Frontline allows employees to connect with customers. So they've got a few enterprise use cases as well. Security, as I was mentioning earlier, multi-factor authentication, right? So with Authi, I'm always confused how to pronounce that. You can actually set up multi-factor authentication with you. Segment is an amazing customer data platform. It's one of the best out there, and that's again a part of Twilio. So there's quite a few ways and quite a few applications that Twilio has to ensure that that one of the best customer engagement and data platforms in the world. And the good thing about these channels that we're going to be working with, and one thing I've personally loved, is that Twilio has ensured that their APIs for the channels are very, very developer friendly. So we're gonna see, and we're gonna ensure that where we try these out and see how nice it is to work with these. Um. Okay, so can I call two people or talk to two peeps with the same Twilio number at once? I haven't tried that at this point, but I do believe there will be a queuing mechanism in place to ensure that your communications are going out. When it comes to SMS and all that stuff, that's just definitely possible. For calling, if it's a long ongoing call, there would be some provisions in place, from what I understand. As far as swag drops go, I don't have a swag drop in mind at the moment. That's not something uh, that I am doing. But keep an eye out. Keep an eye out in the Discord server for sure, and you might just have something happening there, right? So you know what? We've talked a little about Twilio. Let's go ahead and get set up on Twilio as well, right? So we had that link at /Twilio, and with this, you should be able to get started with about $50 worth of credits on Twilio. So make sure you go ahead and register and start your free trial from here. I already have an account, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and log in here for me. All right. And as soon as you log in, we're gonna see a few different things happening up here. They've got two-factor. Let me, security is important for sure. But I had actually verified and kept it safe for a little while, so I'm good at that. So once as soon as you register, you're gonna come across a little page where you have to create your first project, which is something I had already done. But you can always go ahead and go to your console and create another project if you'd like separately. um, you know you can view all your sub accounts, create an organization. You'll find information on billing, account details, all of that. It's all available here. Um, so I think the first thing to do is to make sure that you actually are able to get a phone number for yourself. For that, you may or may not see a few pinned options here on develop. If you don't, do not worry. We're just going to go ahead. We're going to click on explore products and scroll down to super network where we find phone numbers. For me, I'd already pinned it earlier, and I do own a phone number, but you'll have to go ahead and buy a number, which you can do with your Twilio credits. You don't have to pay separately. Uh, just make sure that you go ahead and you select United States here. All right. India is not an option at the moment, but I do know that they have that plan in the works for now. So probably by the end of this year or next year, you should be able to buy India numbers through this as well. But in the meantime, like that was specifically for our Indian audience here. In the meantime, you can go ahead, you can select a US number and purchase one. Just make sure of one thing: you select all the capabilities available here. The reason for that is that even if you're using voice and SMS only right now, you should be in a position where you can, at least use those other services if you like at another point of time, right? So make sure that you get a number with all of those capabilities. And once you purchase a number, you can find your active numbers available here as well. Release numbers are numbers that you've let go, that you aren't using anymore. um, but I don't have a release number at the moment. I just have one active number, so I'll be using that only. And it's a good thing we have that, because we're going to need an active number for this purpose, right? For SMSing and calling. So after that, I'll tell you what, I can go ahead and live code as well, because we have our details available and ready in hand. All right, so give me a minute and let me go ahead and you know let me go ahead and set up a little API in .NET, and that's what I'll be working with. Although I will say that with Twilio you can actually use quite the variety of platforms if you like. Let me go ahead and share you the docs and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So as I visit the documentation, we can find all of these different services here, right? Um, with SMS, for example, you can actually use SDKs for any of these languages. We've got PHP, Node, Python, Ruby, Java, and C Sharp. We've got SDKs for all of these. We've got quick starts for all of these. So you can actually use any of these platforms to work with Twilio. In fact, we have the Twilio CLI as well. That, of course, is another matter. But with this, I think you can work with most general um, developer languages and platforms. I'm going to be using C Sharp for my purposes, but feel free to work with any platform you like out of these. That's not a mandate by any means. So don't worry too much about that. Now I'm just going to take my screen off because I want to set up a little my desktop ones just with VS Code and all. Just give me a second, please. Just have so many things running at the moment. It's always tricky. But I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set up a little API right now. All right. Just bringing up my screen once. So I think as you can see, I've got my terminal and I ended up creating a little API for me already. What all I've done is I've just gone ahead and created a .NET Web API using the console. I work with .NET and I'm gonna be doing one thing. I'll be working on this API in VS Code. So VS Code is good enough for these purposes right now. Also, if you want to work with another platform like Node.js, Python, Java, whatever you want, please feel free to do so. You don't have to mandatorily use .NET for our purposes. Okay. And the reason I'm using an API is because it'll be easier to trigger this through Postman, which is also something I'm going to be showing and doing. All right. So let me just go ahead and I'm going to show you the file structure once just because I keep forgetting. Yeah. Just switching between Bash and this. But, we've got our little, well, API built here. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this in VS Code. You can. You can. In fact, Twilio does allow and accept messages as well. So you can have a webhook running with Twilio, and as soon as you get a message, you can trigger an action accordingly. It is very much possible. I will, however, not be running a demo on that at the moment. But I've seen people build applications where they message a number to Twilio and then change a light on their using their smart home system. So there's stuff you can do for sure, even if you message a number. That's very much a viable option. All right. So if you see here, uh, this API here that we have, it's a .NET 6 API, very conventional um, MVC-esque model here, except with instead of views, this is going to be JSON input and output. We've got controllers here for, our API, and we're doing that sort of thing there. In fact, I'll tell you what, probably a more convenient experience here might be to play around with Visual Studio. If I think about it, so I'm tell you what, I'll just go ahead and get Visual Studio up for me once, just because developing with .NET is a little more convenient there. But you can do it in VS Code just as well anyway. So feel free to use either of these. But the more I think about it now, I think I'll probably work with Visual Studio now. So I've gone ahead, I've opened this little project here. It's loading up, and I see there's an upgrade. I'll upgrade it later. So you can see that we've got the same thing. We've got our program here. This is what's gonna build our API. We've got our controllers here. That's a little model we have, which isn't something we necessarily need for now. So we're just gonna delete it, honestly. App settings there, these let you play around and add details to your configuration if you like. If you want to do that, which is going to be especially helpful because what I'm going to be doing after this is I'm going to actually keep my Twilio details in app settings and not in directly in my code. So it's going to be especially helpful for us, as I go forward. Yeah, I hope people are able to follow along for now at least. And let me know if you have any doubts. Yeah, I see someone else understands. In fact, for the use case that I mentioned, there's actually an article that Twilio has as well. There is one. So you can actually, use that and play around for sure. Right? How does that sound? Sounds good? I think I hope people are able to understand. I won't be covering NGRock as well because I don't need that with .NET. That's not a thing that I will need at this point. But if you're deploying an application that needs NGRock, sure, go ahead. I will say that so for SMS at least, what we're going to be doing is we'll be following the very basic example that Twilio's docs have. So if you want to go ahead and you want to follow along with this documentation, I'm going to send in the link in the chat as well. So feel free to do that. It's probably the easiest place to get started with Twilio SMS. It's definitely a great tool that we have. So you can go ahead and you can do that right now. And aside from that, once again, you can use any platform that you want. Totally an option. Not a problem. I don't have a pre-built code at the moment. I'm gonna be live building, but you can look at the documentation if you're right. I'm gonna be. It's essentially the same thing, right? The SDK is gonna be worked with in a similar manner. So I'm not gonna. I don't have a pre-built code at the moment. I'm gonna be live building. As we go forward right now. Aside from that, so even if you have to go off, no worries. These sessions are recorded. You can access them on the MLH YouTube later on, whenever you would like. That's totally all right. Tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go create a little API for me now, because of course we want to do that, right? We want a little API for us. So yeah, let us go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna delete this just because we don't need this for now. And I will go ahead and add a new controller for us. And that's gonna be an API controller, not an MVC controller. We can have something with read write actions. That's just gonna make it a little convenient for us later. Nothing more than that. It's just a convenience thing. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm call this Twilio controller. Okay. So as I've created this, we can see we've got a few different well endpoints created for us already. This is exactly why I wanted VS Code. It just makes life easier. For now, we don't need a few of these. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep our. Tell you what, I'll keep our get and post controllers. We'll keep both of them for now. Although we won't actually really need this, but sure. I'll go ahead and remove this one as well because again, we don't actually need this either at the moment. So that's a basic controller here for us, and we're gonna be taking an input here. We'll be taking a phone number here, and with this, what's gonna happen is we're gonna take this as a little query. All right. So in this format, we'll take the phone number as a query, and we'll be making the call from here using our Twilio details. In order to do that, though, we need to install the Twilio SDK once. So I'm going to go ahead and install the Twilio SDK for us using the NuGet package manager. NuGet is the equivalent of NPM or pip. And I see someone has issues with. Just a second. Let me figure out how to do that. My mouse is a little stuck. Oh, I somehow can't. Keep it 14 for now. I hope this helps. Should be a little more visible now, I hope. Anyway, so the first thing we want to install is Twilio, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and just search Twilio here. And as you can see, we've got Twilio here, right? We've got both Twilio and SendGrid, but for now, Twilio is the one we need. So I'm going to go ahead and install Twilio for this project. And the good thing is that, with .NET and Visual Studio, there's just such amazing tooling. You can actually just, just a few button clicks and install. You don't have to remember all the terminal codes, although those aren't the most difficult as well. But sure, you can do that. So as soon as this is installed, this should be visible here under the installed category for us as well, which means this API is actually ready to go. We can go ahead and we can use, we can go ahead and we can use, well, Twilio here in our API now. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's do that now. First things first, though, I want to set up my um, information, my settings here, in in my configuration ones. So I'm gonna go ahead, take my screen off for a little second because I want to just take a little bit to do that. But you can use Flask or Django, whatever you want with Python. That's totally an option. We've got the necessary details here for that anyway, so don't worry too much about that. Tell you what, let me go ahead and let me add my details, my Twilio details to my configuration ones. And the fun part is these are all available on the Twilio console. So, after you've purchased the number and you've got your account, in fact, if I look at the console, I've got all of these details here. So you can use them off here if you'd like. That's totally fine. But for the meantime, I'm just gonna take this off. This is also a good time to ask any questions if you'd like. So if you have any of those, please feel free to let me know right now. How's it going? How's things for you these days? How's global hack week been so far? So bad with this. So sorry. Just gonna run a quick check and see if I'm able to get my details through once. Just a little test for me. Um, it's been fun. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So I believe for me at least now I've got my details set in my configuration, but I wanna make sure that they're actually available. I don't want a setter here. I just want this to be gettable. So I'm gonna go ahead and run a quick test. Um, public, well, creating a constructor here. We're gonna be using an interesting thing called dependency injection here. Uh, Nothing to worry about too much, but basically, I'm gonna be injecting my configuration here into this controller right now. Yeah, so let me see if I'm able to get back my Twilio account SID. If that works, then we know that this is actually at least functioning at the moment, right? So that's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna check out and see if it's working. Hopefully, this is all going to be functioning at this point. The first build can take a little bit of time at times because it's creating all of those build files right now, but that becomes less of a problem in subsequent builds. So as I run, I can see a little Swagger doc for me, and if I execute this, am I getting back anything? I'm getting back. Ah, okay, let me go ahead and try this once again. Figure out what's happening. Seems like I'm not getting back my detail. I'm gonna need to check once and see what's up with that. Should be able to get back something from here for sure. Let me go ahead and let me try it out once. Because so this is just to set up our configuration and environment, and if this works, then the setting up Twilio is not going to be a problem. But if this works, I'll have to go ahead and probably try and hard code details once in there. So little hassle there. But we'll try out. We should be able to get this running. Shouldn't be a problem. Just give me a second, please. I do have my details here, so this shouldn't be a big problem at any point. It's just I played around a little less with .NET 6, more with older versions, so happens all the time. But I'm figuring this out, and I think we should be all right. You know, let me go ahead and we'll fix this. Isn't it the best when you know we okay, I see what's I missed out a little aspect of the setup, I think. So I'm just gonna go ahead and see if so this should be able to work. Shouldn't be much of a problem here, if I'm honest. I'm just gonna need a second to figure this out. Sorry about this. Sorry about the little delay, little debugging happening right in the moment of fire. Okay, so ideally what I have should not be causing trouble. Let me go ahead and I might have figured out what's happened here. Let me go ahead and try this once. I think I kind of figured out where we had an issue, and If this works, we're good to go and continue building. So I'm just running a little test here, and it seems like I've broken something. Sheesh. That should work, hopefully. Okay, we're good to go. Finally, we're good to go. Perfect. Back to screen now. Things are okay. Things are up and running. I said sheesh, not Ashish. Who would be Ashish? I have no idea. Okay, but finally we're good to go. So let's get started. So we've already installed Twilio's SDK here. So first thing, I'm just gonna create a couple of variables for myself. The first one is to get my Twilio account SID from my configuration, right? Second one is here just to get my auth token. We want to get this from my configuration as well. Uh, and finally, we're going to get my phone number, the Twilio phone number that we have. One thing, so the number ID that I kept earlier, I'm just going to make a little edit there because we'll need a string instead of a number. And the reason for that is we need a number with the country code, including the plus sign. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that change once. All right. We're going to change this and we're going to have string phone number. Now, next step, of course, is to initialize the Twilio client. And in order to do that, we're going to use the Twilio SDK that we have. So we just add a reference to that. And as soon as the reference is added, yeah, those errors, that's nothing to worry about. That's just because we're not returning anything here yet, and the Twilio client is not yet initialized. So as you can see, it's actually pretty convenient. I mean, this gives me a little auto thing there. But the Twilio client is initialized now. What we're gonna first next do is first create a little message, and this is gonna be of the type of a message resource, which is a class in Twilio's SDKs again in their REST API within the SDK. So as soon as I go ahead and I add that that reference, we've got these functions available, but we have a few different things happening here. All right. So the first thing we need to add is a body to this, and it's not going to be the phone number for sure. We're just going to say hi from Global Hack Week share. Okay. The two number is of course my number, and that's going to be of the type of Twilio has a type for the phone number, and that's the type we're going to be using, and that's going to be our phone number, of course. The from is again going to be of the Twilio types, and that's going to be our Twilio phone number that we have. So as soon as this is done, what we'll do is we'll return an OK result, which is basically a 200, and we're gonna return back the message SID, which is basically an identity. It's an identification number for this message. So if we get a valid SID, or actually we can just return the status. If we get something valid there, it probably means that our message has gone through, and I'll show you the message. Um, Multiple points. What do you mean by multiple points? Do you mean multiple lines? Just let me know what you mean by that, and I'll try and answer it to my best. But it's essentially you're adding a string here, is what you're doing. You can just run \n in there. That's escape characters are valid. It's a string, so just add \n. I'll just do that. I'll hope you're keeping well. Just gonna add a second an extra line there, and I'm adding two lines in the middle, two breaks in the middle. I mean, so let's run this, and I'm gonna run this on my phone number, which you'll end up seeing on screen right now. But sheesh, anyway, never mind. I mean, if people are searching, it's actually available on the internet anyway at this point. So I can add my phone number here and execute this, and I should get an SMS back. So I'll tell you what, actually, I'll take this off for a second, run this little command here, and show you the response that we get. Because I really don't want to give up my phone number on there. So for now, I've got a little empty thing because obviously it got that object a little early. I think I should have just gone with the SID. But I have my SMS here. The SMS came and it's visible. Let's just hope this focuses. Yep. See, we've got our SMS there. So yeah, this works. Awesome. That's an SMS for you. You know what the fun thing is that so I got a little 200 message on my display, of course. 200 always means the API has gone through, it's not crashed or anything, all of that's working. You can actually find all of these details in your console as well. So if I open my Twilio console right now and I go to monitor, I can find the logs for any messages that have gone through on my Twilio, and you might see a few of them here. But yeah, so I can get where it was created, how many message segments were there, what the cost was, when it was queued, all the timestamps. All of these details are available on my console, so I can actually get any of this information back, which is actually really, really convenient, right? Now, that's probably a start for us. Yeah, you can try that. I've done that one quite a bit. So on a past stream, I think during a while back on the MLH channel, I actually live built an app that recrolls people. I think at MLH in it, that's when I'd done. I don't add the YT link. I actually just, you get a phone call. I'm gonna create that because so Twilio actually a while back created a prank and they've got an MP3 available with which you can rickroll people, which I'm gonna share in the chat once because after I show how you can go ahead and create calls and stuff because like you can actually go ahead and just rickroll people to Twilio and you call them and people hear the song. It's very much possible at this moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and show how that can be done. Just give me a second once. Yeah. First things first, I want to tell you how calling goes ahead as well. So I'm just gonna comment this out. Okay. Just gonna remove this. So for calling, it's a very similar structure to be honest. There's a lot of similarities with what we have. Instead of a message resource, we create a call resource. Same thing, same. Here we've got create. Just gonna we've got a two. We can actually copy the to and from number from here for now. That's actually because that both of those are the same. With the body though, there's something different that's gonna happen now, and that is so with Twilio, they actually have their own markup for you to add, for you to keep and to create, just their messaging and the calling structure. Because they have a few different things happening there, right? So they've got their own markup language called Twilio markup language or TwyML, which you end up using. And we're gonna try and use it today. We're gonna use TwyML, have a very basic markup in there. All right. So one way, of course, we directly add TwyML here and for Twilio types TwyML, and we go ahead and we add our TwyML. So I'm gonna write a very basic TwyML here right now, nothing very complex or anything, just something very basic for now. All right. The first thing we need to add is a tag for response. I'm gonna close this off right now as well. The next thing we're gonna add is a tag for say, because we wanted to say a message right now. Okay, I'm gonna add the same message for now, barring the \n because that's just not necessary. Well, and I'm gonna add a little longer messages because so that we can actually hear it as well. Looking forward to having you at more sessions. So we've got our call ready, and that's all there is to add to creating at least a basic call. Just gonna return the entire call detail for now. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run this once again. So in order for that purpose, yeah, I you can actually collect keystrokes in TwyML. That is very much possible. Um, there will be information in the Twilio docs and that as well, so you can always go ahead and have a little look once. All right. I need to take a sip of water for a second. But Twilio does have options for that. In fact, Twilio has their own studio in which you can design these sort of functions as well. They've got quite a lot happening there. I'll show some of that stuff. But for now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a phone call. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and try it out. And my number's already been up on screen, so might as well. when I create a call this time, and when I execute it, if you can see, I'm getting a phone call. Now it says work value because I've already saved the number, but
From Global Hack Week, share. Hope you're keeping well. Looking forward to having you at more sessions.
was that audible for you all? I can run this once again. I had my number saved is the only reason why I'm getting the work Twilio thing written. Otherwise, it just show your Twilio number. Is what would happen. But I've saved it since I've been using it for a while. Let me run this once again. We'll try calling this number again. So you see, once again, we've got work Twilio and
From Global Hack Week, share. Hope you're keeping well. Looking forward to having you at more sessions.
so yeah, that was the message and the number we got. And if I bring up my screen once, because I brought that call out entirely, you can see we've got all of these details here, right? We've got that SID, when it was created, from which number, the phone number, SID. There's a lot of details here. You can get information about the stream, um, pricing. There's just a lot of information you can get back. So that way, it's actually pretty cool. It gives you all of this information. Now you could always go ahead and have your YML in yeah, going to the console in code, of course, but you don't have to. That's actually not mandatory. You can go ahead and create a something called a YML bin, which is basically a place where you can keep YML. You get a URL and then you trigger the URL instead of the YML. That's actually a valid way of going about this as well. So we're gonna go ahead now and see how you can create a YML bin. And I am going to do one thing, grab this out of here, because, well, why not? In that case, instead of YML, we actually just use a URL instead. So I'm gonna go ahead, create a YML bin for us, and then I will, well, go ahead and show us how you can add something for yourself there as well. Now I have YML bin spender here again. You can go ahead to explore products. You can actually search YML bins here directly. Even if you scroll down, it should be visible here to you. Yeah, under developer tools. Just a point. So earlier you mentioned, right? There was a question around whether you can collect keystrokes and have that sort of thing. You can check out Twilio Studio for that once. Functions is a cool service that lets you build serverless functions using Node.js. It's only till Node.js for now, but you can do that. Assets is a service that lets you serve rich media assets like video, sound, all of that. So Twilio now has actually a lot of cool stuff happening that you can try out, and you can make API requests and explore that from your browser as well. We're gonna check out YML bins for now, and as you can see, I have a few already, including one to Rickroll. um, it seems to be empty at the moment, but we'll fix that. That's not a problem. But we're definitely gonna be Rickrolling someone with this. So I'm gonna just call this GHW share. YML is very similar to an XML format. That's actually, yeah. So here we're gonna keep our YML here once, and will you let us know whether this is valid or not? In fact, if suppose I make a change here, I straight away get a red mark and I get to know that my syntax is invalid, which is pretty convenient, right? So that's why YML is pretty, like this YML bins are pretty good to work with, and you can actually create this little bin here and then use the URL instead. So if I try this out now, I just change this to thanks for trying out by ML bins. And the reason I do that is because I want a message that's a little different from the one we've been listening to all this while. So, the code, yeah, I'll push it to GitHub and then you can check it out. I'll push it to GitHub after at the end. I'll make a submission as well. So, we'll try and we'll see how that can be done, right? So here now I can just keep the URI or the URL here, and it should let us achieve the same response and the same result. We actually will not end up needing this post controller anyway. So I'll remove that. Let me take a sip of water in the meantime. You want to be rickrolled? Someone wants to be rickrolled here. I'll run it off my phone. That's what I'll do. So now that I have the URI there, let me go ahead and show you what happens. And it should work in a similar manner. So a resource has been created, and I'm getting a call as earlier.
Hi from Global Hack Week. Share. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks for trying out Twilio bin.
See, it did give us the updated sound. If that wasn't clear enough, let me run it again. We changed that message there, and that's what we got. Second, where is the? Yeah, we had this mentioned, right? If suppose I make a little change here, it's gonna be the same URL, so I don't actually need to change the URL there. I am just gonna trigger the function. And I get a call once again.
Hi from Global Hack Week. Share. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks for joining the live stream.
Yeah, I mean, so what I've created here is just an endpoint where you're inputting a number, right? You can create a loop instead and have pre-saved numbers. So you can, whoever you want to call, sure, you can run people into this function every time. Or like if you want to do that, you'd basically just have to update this number, right? That's all you need to do. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, but you know how you can recall someone else then, no, right? So that's the trick. Now with Twilio we've got some fun stuff happening for sure. We've been playing around with stuff. We've tried out stuff, but we want to try and see how we can rickroll people as well, right? Since that's a thing people have just been so excited about. And Twilio's actually made it really easy to do that. But before that, we're gonna try and see how we can run an MP3. So I have this little MP3 file from Twilio that you can use to, well, we use that with of course with our Twilio voice to make sure that we can actually run audio in calls as well, right? So yeah, that's the audio we're going to be running. Twilio actually ran this prank a while back where they used this to prank people. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a little change to our to the TwyML bin that we have. And why do I have docs here? Oh yeah, these are docs we showed earlier, right? Let me find the console for a second now. back to console. So now we're going to make a little change here. And instead of say, we're going to use the play handler here instead. And we're going to keep this link here for us. And I keep pressing on this. Mhm. So when we trigger the function now, this should be rather interesting. So let's try and trigger the function now. And it seems like there's a little error here. Let me see if there was a trigger on Twilio. If this happens from time to time. What I can do instead, of course, is also I can just keep the YML ones because I've done that one and that works. Oh, seems like there was just something. The call never got triggered apparently. So I'll tell you what. Let me just go ahead and I'm gonna keep this here. I mean, this should work because I've done this in the past. I really hope this works. Let's go ahead. Let's try it out now. Yeah, the call's gone through. So, time to vibe a little. Yeah. Now imagine if you had an app where you just input any number of your friends and they get this call. You can actually do that stuff with Twilio. I did that a while back. And in one of these streams we had, I actually built an app to do that. I'm not jumping onto the app building now, but you can always do that. Create a little website, an app, something of that sort, and you can play around with that. Right. So yeah, feel free to play around with Twilio. This stuff is it's always a ton of fun, and you can always play around here. Now I'll tell you what I am gonna remove this, and I'm gonna push this to GitHub once, so anyone here can try it out, of course. And we're gonna go ahead and create a submission on dev post. That's the one. That's what we need to do. So just gonna save this and keep this here. Git changes. We wanna create a Git repository. Right. And in the meantime, though, what I also want to do is I want to make sure that my I don't want to push my credentials and details. So I'm gonna go ahead. And where is my terminal? Yeah. I'm gonna create a Git Ignore. I tell you what. Why was I? I mean, I have terminal running here anyway. Let me just go ahead and create it from here once. Wait, what? Yeah, just gonna add app settings and app. So that way, when we initialize Git here, app settings is gonna be ignored directly. I'm just going ahead and I'm creating a little, you know, create Twilio project. Let me see. We have a Git repository running. That's not a problem. So the Git repository is being created right now, which is great. Let me just check my GitHub once. Okay, we have GSW and I ended up pushing build files as well, unfortunately. 1 second. Let me go ahead and let me remove those as well, because that's not supposed to go along. Just gonna go ahead and delete my build files once. I'm gonna add that to in here as well. And I'll just push that. So my repo here should be good to go. Yeah, that's there for us. That works. We've got our CS Pro, we've got our solution, the program file, the controllers, all of that. So yeah, that's the repo that we have, but we want to make sure we get a submission in as well, right? Website would be easy via hooks. You can just create a trigger for this API as well if you want. You don't even have to worry too much about that. Just if you've got a deployed API, just trigger it. I mean, in this case, so the thing is, you have to open the CS proj or the solution. The solution is the .sln file that's for Visual Studio. The CS proj is the equivalent of a package.json. The program file is what creates and runs the the project. So within the folder, you can just go ahead and run the command .NET run, and that should ideally be good enough. The .NET run command. That's the one. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open our link for share because I want to find the dev post link, right? So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna join this hackathon. I'm working solo. I got to know from MLH website because I'm an MLH coach. Sure. And I'm gonna register. Let me drink a little water. My throat's hurting at this point. And we're gonna go ahead. We'll create a project. Cards. Yep, we're good. I'm just gonna name this. Use the Twilio API. DHW share. I'm gonna call this API that rickrolls people using Twilio. I'm gonna save and continue. For this, we don't need the inspiration, honestly, right now. That's all right, not a problem. I'm gonna say created an API that rickrolls people on by calling them. Actually, we don't need created. That's built using .NET 6 Web API and Twilio. And here also I'm gonna add .NET and Twilio. Here we can have the Git repo. I'll share that in the chat as well for you to look at. Please don't paste the same link because it literally says it's my link. So yeah, you just don't that's there for reference if anyone wants to check out what I've done during the session. For the video as well, I'm gonna add a video link here, and I will just add the link of the live stream here. For the vid, yeah. So that way I can just have the live stream link accessible as well. And the challenge we're solving here, there should be one for Twilio as far as. Okay, seems like I don't see one for Twilio, which is surprising. We did have a prize. I'll look into that once. I'll see what's up there. Because if I do remember, it does mention we did have Twilio there, right? We had explored the Twilio API. I'll check why that isn't there, but yeah, that's what we would have had to submit. For now, I guess I'll have a look at that once. Not sure what happened on that. Do we have? I'll check once. Do we have something for Twilio and Global Hack Week? Otherwise, if there's a week long, maybe that might be the case. We might have a week long there. In that case, I'll have to redo this from scratch. I mean, it's supposed to be there on the day for dev post. Huh. Surprising. I'll look into this once. That should be an option there because it's supposed to be there on the day for dev post. Interesting. Yeah. I'll look into this once. See what happened there. So I'll check in so that you can submit later. Maybe it's in the Google form, but like, so from the website here, it's supposed to be on dev post and not in the Google form. The Google form has other challenges, right? So that's the thing. It's supposed to be in the day for dev post. So I'll go and have a look because it should be um, available here. But anyway, once I guess in a little bit, probably you should be able to create a submission for this. All right, don't worry too much about that. You will be all right. I'm gonna check back with the team once and see if we can um, add that information there or something of that sort. All right. But yeah, either way, thanks a lot for attending. I guess that's I'm probably good to go in this case now. I'll check on whether we can have that entry added. But that's about that from me. So thank you so much for attending. I think this was definitely a wonderful session. I had a ton of fun throughout. I always like working with Twilio, so definitely glad to see some more folks interested in trying out Twilio, and definitely we'll see each other, throughout Global Hack Week. I believe I have one more session tomorrow around another technology that I'm a big fan of, and that's of course cloud platforms. So we'll see each other there as well. So yeah, thank you so much once again, and see you all later. Right? Oh, can I share what projects I've used Twilio SMS and calls in? Yeah, rickrolling, of course. Aside from that, it's been a feature in certain cases. So um, there was a like I once built an SOS application which basically took the geolocation of my phone and I sent that in. I reverse geolocated that using Google Maps API and send that information across to an emergency number using Twilio. That was something I worked on a stream, in fact, a while back. And even aside from that, I think I've used it as a feature, just maybe to send across information as an SMS, something of that sort. I've done in the past. If there's like a little report I have to forward, SMS works out. SendGrid can be used if you want to send emails. It's convenient for emails. So that's another way to of how you can use Twilio. So those are a few different ways of going about it, and you can always go ahead and try out and experiment and see. I've seen people start work on IoT projects where they have collision detectors, right? And as soon as there's a collision, they send an SOS to a hospital. So I've seen that sort of stuff happen as well. That's another like that's been an interesting project idea, and definitely though you can always go ahead and try out and see how you can play around with Twilio and come up with some even more fun use cases in the future. Yeah, Twilio plus Google Calendar, that's something to think about. Sure, why not? Yep, good idea. As a notification, just get a call. That's something you can think about, and you've got a webhook there for that, so why not? Good stuff, good ideas. You can think more on that and build out something fun, right? Always good to do that. So yeah, that's about it from me. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. See ya. Bye bye.